was a typical day in Tokyo. Everyone wanted to arrive at work on time, and the subway was packed with people. Then, an old man entered the subway, and this girl couldn't understand why no one offered him a seat. The girl stood up and gave her own seat. But when she realized who the man was, something incredible happened. Hina's parents valued a good education and sent her to a prominent school. Hina was happy to get such an education, but it meant she had to cover a lot of distance daily. So a seat in the subway wasn't an unnecessary luxury. It was a busy day, and Hina quickly looked around when she got on the subway. She quickly made her way toward the empty seat and flopped down before it was taken. She had time to relax before the busy life of a student started again. Hina closed her eyes and dozed off for a minute, unaware her life would soon take an unexpected turn. At the end of it stood an elderly man who barely managed to get inside the metro on time. He walked through the train car, looking for a seat, but it was packed, and everyone seemed to ignore him. "Here, mister, take my seat, please," she offered him lovingly. The man looked at her appreciatively and tried to sit down. Once Hina was confident the man was secure in his seat, she let him go. She stepped back and looked at him, which caused her heart to skip a beat. She hadn't seen it before from far away, but now she noticed the man looked familiar. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming stories. The man had probably just reminded her about her grandfather, but the sudden familiarity kept gnawing at her during the ride. Subconsciously, she kept checking in on him. Did they actually know each other? Hina came to regret her decision to give the old man her seat, as he kept staring at her during the remainder of the ride. Why was he behaving so oddly? The metro couldn't reach her destination far enough, or so she thought, because when the metro stopped at the next station, she struggled with herself. This stop appeared to be the destination of the old man. He managed to get out just in time. What was supposed to be a relaxing ride in preparation for her school day turned into a chaotic moment. Hina's mind still lingered on what happened when she got off at her stop. She left her bag on the metro. Hina hurried back and sighed with relief when her bag was still there. It was that seat that caught her attention because of an old-looking envelope lying on top of it. It probably fell out of his pocket when she helped him get up. Without thinking, Hina grabbed it and exited the train. Once outside, Hina took a closer look at the envelope. It intrigued her. She was late for school. Her mind raced with the possibilities of what was inside the envelope. She couldn't let it go and started thinking of ways to discover what was inside. But Hina soon lost hope as she realized there was no way. Or was there? She would return the envelope to the old man, as it probably belonged to him. That way she could ask him what was inside, and the mystery that intrigued her would be solved. Hina had just arrived at school, but already wanted the day to end. She wanted to find the old man and return the envelope. She was so deep in thought she didn't notice the group of girls running toward her until they shouted her name. "Hina, you're on TV," they said. Hina was bewildered. What did they mean? Hina looked at the screen in confusion. The video showed security footage where an old man exited the metro with a girl's help. This can't be a coincidence, she thought. And then, the old man appeared on the screen. The man looked very emotional. His eyes filled with tears, and his voice quivered as he spoke. "I accidentally left a very important envelope on the subway, and I really need to get it back." Hina's mind raced. So the envelope did belong to him. What was so important he asked for it on TV? It showed her picking up the envelope. She was speechless as the man returned to the screen. Hina couldn't contain her curiosity now. She had to know why this envelope was so important. She took it out of her bag and quickly glanced inside. Her eyes grew wide in amazement. Where did this key lead? A moments later, the metro came to a halt in the station she saw on the footage. The station was quite big, as it had 6 platforms. Her mind raced. Was the man still here? Or where could the old man have gone in the meantime? She started to run over the platform. The running made Hina's heart beat even faster than it already was. The old man was sitting on a bench on the other side of the station. She felt relief come over her. He was still here. The man stood up and walked toward the exit. She ran up the stairs to cross over to the other platform and running into someone on her way down, wanting to continue her way. But then she realized she had bumped into the old man. They stared at each other in surprise for a moment. Then Hina grabbed the envelope out of her bag and trusted it toward him. "You left this on the train." The man was still processing what happened and hesitantly took the envelope from her. "Thank you, young lady," he said eventually after finding his voice. "I thought I lost it forever." "It is very dear to me." The man smiled happily and told Hina she reminded him of his granddaughter. She was eagerly waiting to find out what the key was for. The man noticed she was staring at the envelope. "It's been in my family for generations. I can't thank you enough," he said. "What does key open?" "So you saw what was inside the envelope?" Hina opened her mouth to apologize, but noticed a smile on the man's face. "I can show you if you like," he continued. Hina was surprised by the unexpected invitation. Hina started to ask the old man some questions, and to her surprise, then the man explained that the key could open an ancient vault that had belonged to his family for a long time. When the metro arrived and the man got up, Hina hesitated for a slight moment, but then decided to come along. Hina didn't expect it to take this long to reach their destination. As the man explained the key was used to enter a vault, she assumed they were headed for a bank. But they had walked past 3 banks now, and the worries slowly crept back into her mind. Was the man really so open and honest as he led on to be? Then, he suddenly entered a building. Hina looked around and then at the exterior of the building. They were in a quiet street, and the building the man just entered looked old and run down. She found herself in a hyper-modern bank. Hina's eyes grew large as she looked around in amazement. "Without you, I would never have been able to get into the Saito family vault." Hina couldn't believe what he was offering her. She had only done what she thought was the right thing to do. Yet here she was being rewarded with a valuable heirloom. "Mr. Saito, I couldn't accept this." He pushed the statue in her hands. Then Mr. Saito showed her the way out and waved goodbye. Hina got curious about the statue's value. She had never owned something like this before, and she was convinced it was worth a lot of money. Besides that, Hina wanted to ensure she cared for it properly. About a month after receiving the gift, and that the statue was worth well over $10,000. Hina was amazed by the statue's value and history. About 8 months later, Hina came home and noticed something was wrong. As she entered her living room, she felt a cold breeze blowing through it. Confused, she looked around and saw that her bedroom window was open. Her window was broken into. He quickly looked around the room to see if anything was missing. With a heavy heart, she looked toward the cabinet where the statue had stood. Her vision became blurry as tears filled her eyes. Someone had come into her apartment and stole the statue she had been gifted a few months ago. Besides the value, she became really emotionally attached to it. Hina was panicking so much that she almost missed something significant. She paced around the room, frantically wiping away her tears, when she suddenly stopped and stared at the cabinet. She rushed over and opened the cupboard. "What the?" she muttered as she took a written note from the plank. Who would do something like this? She felt utterly helpless and didn't know where to turn. That's when she remembered Mr. Saito, who had given her the statue. She quickly grabbed her phone and looked through her contacts. She had saved his phone number, right? Without thinking, she dialed his number, hoping he would be able to help her. "Hello?" The old man's voice crackled over the phone. The sound of his voice was somehow disarming. "Hello, it's Hina," she began. "I need your help." His voice suddenly sat down. He immediately wanted to know what had happened. A few hours later, he arrived at Hina's home and discovered the window was open. Jennifer wanted to know what had happened. No details is too small. The old man listened intently to Hina, explaining how she had come home and discovered the window was open and the statue was gone. He asked Hina questions, beginning with whether she knew anyone who might want to steal the statue. The man who delivered the statue she had witnessed during the famous stealing was Hina's brother. Hina quickly stood up, went to her bedroom, and returned with a note in her hand. When she gave it to Mr. Saito, his eyes grew large with surprise. Hina was confused at his remark. "What do you mean? Expected?" Mr. Saito's expression turned dark as he looked deep into her eyes. "I think you've been targeted by black market dealers." Black market dealers? How did he know about black market dealers? Was he a dealer as well? Was that why he had a vault at that weird bank? "I'm an art collector and my family has been in the art industry for over a century. Black market dealers and thieves are something we deal with regularly." Mr. Saito then continued and promised to help Hina retrieve her statue. In the following days, he made calls, talked to people, and used his connections. He seemed to know everyone in the business and got information nobody else could get. But after a few days, he got the first solid lead. A group of dealers recently acquired a statue matching the description of Hina's statue. According to the source, the dealers worked from a nearby city. Determined to get the statue back, Hina and Mr. Saudi traveled there together to start their search. It was a different city, which meant that Mr. Saudi didn't have any contacts around. To find the statue, they had to find the dealers. Now, He expected her to go into the shadiest part of an unknown city, but it was the only way to find the statue. Hina threw Mr. Sight a dirty look as she knew he was manipulating her. But it worked. She agreed to his plan as she wanted the statue back. So that night they visited shady bars and talked to people from the underground market. They asked around discreetly, trying to gather information about the stolen statue. The old man knew these circles well and used his knowledge, but they still had to be very careful. As the old man told Hina beforehand, they didn't find the statue instantly. Finding the right people to talk to was time-consuming and meticulous work. Hina felt nervous as she realized she would go into this part of the city multiple times. But one day, they entered a sketchy bar and found someone with valuable information. But the old man took the lead. The old man was talking to a suspicious-looking man, but others were staring at her. Was this it? All because of some statue? Then she heard the voice of whoever the hand belonged to. "Come with me now," Mr. Saito urged. Her face as white as snow. But Mr. Saito didn't notice, as he was already out the door. "I know where the dealers are," he whispered to her. A rush of adrenaline went through her body. They were going to get her statue back. She could feel it. The suspicious man in the bar had told Mr. Saito that the dealers were at a warehouse and were looking for buyers. Once at the warehouse, the old man approached cautiously. The old man struck up a conversation with the dealers, and in no time he convinced them to sell the statue to him. Little did the criminals know, the negotiations were just a distraction. Gehenna called the police and told them exactly what was happening. The apprehension of the thieves was just a happy coincidence to them. On their way back to their city, Hina thought of ways to thank Mr. Saito, but "I will take you to dinner every Thursday from now on." The sudden offer had taken the old man aback for a moment, but then he smiled, realized the young woman felt guilty and obligated toward him. The two kept their weekly dinners going for a long time, in which they grew a strong bond.